Share screen. Okay, kita na da. Can anyone confirm kung kita na? Yung lesson 6. Anyone?
Sure.
Kita na sa inyo?
Yes, sir.
Sige, okay. Ang atong objectives about operating systems and software is to distinguish between software and hardware. As initial man natin nga topic last time, no? May basic na tanga knowledge about dira. And also describe natin ang difference between the application software and system software. And also describe the 3 categories of system programs, as well as describe the operating systems for microcomputers and also the NOS or the network operating systems nga ginagamit with a group of computers or those who are connected to a particular network. So for your vocabulary, you have this batch of words again to add. So we have application software, basic input and output system or BIOS, term natin ng BIOS. Then we have booting, mag-start up sa computer. Then we have the GUI or graphical user interface, language translator, Linux, the Mac OS, MS-DOS, OS man multitasking a term, and the NOS or the network operating system na gamit natin. And also we have the OS or the basic term for operating system, the system software, the Unix, user interface along dashboard na makita nyo. Utility programs, the Windows, so that is an example of a user interface. The Windows Embedded CE and Windows Mobile. So we start with the basic definition na lang, again, of comparing a software and a hardware. So hardware refers to the tangible or physical computer equipment that can be seen and touched. Examples are keyboard and printer, also the mouse, among ng inyong system unit. Those are examples of your hardware. Whereas a software, this is a set of instructions issued to the computer so that specific tasks are performed. Basic examples na isang MS Word and also an operating system wherein we can send out our commands from a user perspective up to the computer level. So duduman nyo naman itong last time to how ang information system na to ga-function, ang iya steps kaya nga cycle. This is basically carried out by your software within the software ninyo kasi inyong operating system. Di lang. Sino to nagsulod? Nga, bago lang. Mr. CJ. Okay, to proceed. Basic type of software are applications and system. So when we define applications, productivity software designed for end user. And examples are word processor, Excel, mga programs yun, examples sa mga browsers nyo, mga email programs sa mga Outlook, etc. Those are examples of your application software, wherein the system software as comparison to that functions is a group of programs that control the resources and operations of a computer system. So basically, dugwa nyo ng application is ang inyong front end nga gamit, while the system software is on your back end. They use resources and operations for the computer system, including this OS no operating system, not on utilities and language translators. Mga language translators going from the basic language for the human language nga command up to the system or computer language nga command. So these language translators used to translate these commands and interpret it up to the computer level of understanding and execution. And then for the OS, we have the parts of the operating system wherein it provides interface between a user or an application program and the computer hardware. So basically, what it handles is siya ga-host kag siya ang ga-provide sang interface. So basically, hindi ka magagamit ng Word kung hindi mo pag-on ang imong computer. So mag-on ka sa computer, makita mo na nag-load ng Windows mo. So Windows is your example of your operating system. So whenever you need to open MS Word or Excel, you need to run the operating system first. So i-open mo na siya, so ma-boot up na siya. Pag-apos niya boot up, ma-offer na sa dayon sang list of programs or applications nga pwede mo gamiton sa imong functions ano nung gusto mo nang umuron sa mga adlaw for your tasks or assignments or etc. So that is the term what we say as providing an interface between us users and the application program going to the computer hardware function. So one example is the Windows, and then maning iya nga how it symbolizes the functionalities and the interface between our users and up to the computer hardware. So manay arrows no operating system, application software provides the commands going to the operating system, tapos ang OS naman translate niya to computer language for the microprocessor to interpret and execute. Tapos ang output nga result sang process nga to masulod sa hard disk either, or you would want it printed kung may MS Word ya din no, ma-print out kasi this printer, it will ma-send ka sa command. So control P, example B no, pa-print ka, file print, tama na dayon masulod sa D. Tapos ma-send na sa command yang MS microprocessor mo, suguon niya ang printer yung i-print out tong data or dokumento nga provide sang MS Word ka to. So basically this is your output, one of your output devices. So kung madumduman nyo not only nga sa printer no, the display mo sa inyo mga PC or sa laptop display, usually the example of how the computer hardware produces its output, and for also for the user to check kung amo to ng sakto na itong iyang ipaprocess nga data or task nga gipobray sa computer. So tandaan nyo lang muning setup sini from user, software, and computer hardware. Okay, next, utility programs. Example of these programs to help you perform housekeeping chores inside your computer. So mga housekeeping chores, you make sure that the system is running on its top performance, and anything nga may problema dira i-try again fix as soon as possible. So mga example naton, we have the system tools. Makita mo na sa system tools naton, kung we go to the program files, under dira sa menu nga na usually dira ang system tools naton, which includes this following task no, formatting a disk, format disk na isang function, also copying a file or backup files or backup for the hard drive. It also provides a utility program for that, and also consolidating fragmented files. When you say fragmented, pareho man na sa function naton sang disk defragmenter, to make sure that the sectors of the disk of your hard disk are well maintained and error free. So kung may mga error, it will detect it and it will try to fix it by fragment or by sector inside that hard disk or sa inyong SSD. So we have Linux translators as explained kagina. The basic definition niya is to convert English-like software programs into machine language that the computer can understand. So what I meant kagina itong computer level nga understanding is it will refers to the machine language for the computer to understand. So basic sini is translation would change the basic programming mo. Statements that are inputted into the basic programming are translated into machine language through a specific function or language translator that we use to go through the function and convert it into the machine language. Then we have the Microsoft computer operating systems. These computers basically have OS no tanan. Basic computer ranging from atong typical nga laptop and desktop setup. They will also go with microcomputers naton. Sa mga cellphone naton, we also have OS man diri for it to function, for apps to be recognized and executed no. May OS man ta dira. So para sa example, tagit isang Android phone is also an OS. So this two types of user interface. We have the command line and GUI, or graphical user interface. The several popular operating systems available for microcomputers that we use. They have the DOS, this operating system, or ang amo na yung full meaning sini, combination of DOS and Windows, and also a standard version of Windows. So early computers, they use this command line interface. If you've seen ang developments ng early computers, okay, wala pa to mouse, no? Kung madudunan nyo ang lecture ko to last time, ang keyboard as input device is one of the very important and relevant in the development of the first and the early computers naton. So they use keyboards to send out commands in lines. So amo na tawag naton nga command line interface. So once nga magsala din sila sang command through lines of code na sa, or command code setup, amo na sa din ang i-execute sang computer into its machine language, and then it will produce the data as a result. So with this type of interface, amo na you must type out the exact command for it to execute. And after the development of the Microsoft operating systems, the IBM PC was the first one to develop and use this type of interface, which they call as the DOS, or the disk operating system. The user can only run one program at a time, which is one of yung pinaka-basic niya. Because its early use is for maybe for military or mathematical calculation. And then up to now, ang DOS is still accessible to all Windows version. So mag-type out kasi makita mo na ang sa command prompt or sa search. Kung mag-search ka naman, enter ka by search function, you can type out CMD, and then it will put out the DOS browser. The DOS program nilang interface wherein if you would want to go old school, with using this command line interface to go through the directories of your computer, then pwede mo na himuon dara sa mga aspect. So, man itsura niya, command prompt. Wherein the command line interface is adding. One example natin is when you ping a command, use the ping. This is the website that will be the target to ping the connection. So, ping command used to determine the website address, and then it will return a money address with this data type. So, once mag-tick out ni siyang money data, which means nga may response ang connection, and nakakuha ka sang ping data out of this website sa maning iyang resort. Ang moment natin nga basic nga ginagamit, kung sabon sa una to test out the connection, no? Kung ping with no response, usually wala na sa connection ng particular ng system or network. When you ping out, example, ping ka sa Google, ping ka sa Yahoo, etc. Then for GUI, the graphical user interface, it makes the computer easy to use. Unlike kagina command type wherein you use lines, this one they use graphical. So graphics, icons, mga images, etc. So when the user turns on the computer, a symbolic desktop is displayed with the various icons representing the disk, the files, and programs. Ang mga ginamit. So mga mo natin example sang graphical user interface. So most people use a mouse to click on the icons and execute the commands. Next, ang mga itsura niya. Ito yung basic na lang. Now for the Mac OS, you call it as the Macintosh operating system, was introduced in 1984 also with a GUI or graphical user interface setting. And for Microsoft, introduced its own version by having the first version of the Windows in 1983. And in fact, Windows 95 was the first true multitasking operating system by the version of Windows nga ginagamit natin. Up to now, Windows 11 natin ginagamit. But from the development natin nga halin sa earlier versions ng Windows, naging relevant na gid siya nga let's say may mga version nga laway as the version progresses, no, sige improvement nila, may lagi nga mga versions sa Windows nga laway kay output and kumbaga ang feedback from the users are ano na mas nubo as compared mo sa other versions. Also with the issues on using softwares, example mga installation may mga application software nga hindi compatible sa specific nga Windows or amo nga Windows mismo may issue na gid sa amo nga application software. So vice versa may problem na sila nga katabo, and at the same time may ara man nga version sa OS nga mas preferably mas ideal nga mas kumaga mag-function get at its full capacity ang amo ng application software. So susubong sa mga current versions ng Windows, they usually have ang mga beta testing, no? Ang tawag nila nga beta testing, they produce kumaga first version of that version, example Windows 11, no, beta version sina, they would release out sa initial na market for user to test, no. Kung once may mga problema sila, you can just basically give out a feedback or probably in the setup of coding yan or interface amo na i-feedback mo sa Microsoft, and then later on they will release a patch or update to fix that kind of issues and other code related ng mga problems sa mga version sa Windows. So moving forward, we have the first Windows 98 na version by June 1998, and it introduced the integrated web browsing in active desktop with a browser-like interface. So dira na naghalin ang pinaka basic to kaginagin. Check na to, no. Ang morning interface was first introduced in Windows 98 naton sa aton nga kung sa Microsoft naman ang aspect. So there's newest operating system. Kasi namal nila newest, but up to now is din sa bang newest na because of the Windows 11 nga version. So introduce the features, usually mas smooth na mga icons, security features such as a stronger firewall and other improved versions of the features nga ara man sa previous nga mga versions sa Windows. So, by the basic, kung paano naton ang mag-operate sa isa ka computer, no? By clicking the start button and then the power button to turn off. Tapos, restart, sleep, hibernate, shutdown are the usual options naton. So, if you restart, it will shut down the computer and boot it up again. So, mamanong terminal start. But within sleep, it is sort of a power saving option, but it will still continually run the programs and the OS in the background. Basically, kung sa power naman, basically patayin ng computer by means of shutdown. Ang sleep naman niya, it's more of a power saving option. Whereas for hibernate, this is also the power saving option, but it allows you to return to the same programs and files nga kung left mo last time. Usually nga ton sibong notice na ang sleep nga function naton kung sa mga laptop is kung itabon mo na imong i-drop down mo na imong monitor sa imong laptop to close it. So basically that triggers the sleep and the hibernate function of your laptop's OS. Now for embedded operating systems, this include technology and tools that enable developers to create a broad range of devices. By this operating system, which uses a small ROM chip and is usually used in small handheld computers para sa smartphones naton, and also wireless communication devices, mga PDAs ng sauna, and sa subong ito yung mga amoning smartphones, mga handheld computer devices, mga kasi mga beepers, yung mga bag-o subong, and also mga sa OS na sang iya ka Apple na blang ila nga mga handheld nga mga wide touchscreen setup of their computers sa mga example sa aton nga embedded computer operating systems. Then for Unix, it is an operating system frequently used by programmers and scientists, and it was originally developed by AT&T. Before, may haraman nga nag-try mga Unix for commercial version, but it leans more to be of a programmer, yun nga, no, nga programmer bias siya. Kaya yung interface, more yun niya sa coding and mga scientific ng mga applications. It was considered as multitasking but can run almost any hardware platform as the same sa mga bago sa mga OS, no. But the issue, hindi ba siya issue basically, but ang iyang feature is more on, it leans more on science experiments and programming and other related din sila nga mga topics sa muna nga setup. So there are also several variants of the language, mga Linux or IBM's IX is an example. Now for the process of starting a computer, you call it the booting. So when you start your computer, operating system commands are loaded into the memory. Ano nga memory ang ga-load sina? Ang aton nga random access RAM na to, ang random access memory na to. Kasi it will store out the OS data as temporary data sa muna nga memory, and then amo na haboy dayon sa computer to start up the system. So each operating system boots or starts the computer in its own way. So loading the OS system, basically turned on. Pag click mo sa power, kung given nga Windows ka tapos dasig yung mga setups hardware mo, it really just boot out directly to the loading page, the welcome page, instead of seeing the BIOS BIOS page. Kaya sali kung sa mga hinay computers, makakanto ka ba na sa BIOS page, makita mo nag-run na sa data, try to run the operating system of the computer, and it will also do a series of diagnostic tests. As sige na run mo na sa test sa tayo, tapos once nga go na tanan nga setup, it will then go for the boot record. Then amo tong boot record ka to ma-load na sa RAM. Yan ang RAM amo na nga tago sang sini nga programming configuration instructions, hardware devices and software applications that are installed to computer. So amo na silang unod niya. It will go through the RAM to load out this configuration, or kung sa aton nga aspect is the user profile naton nga kung anong profile katong nga computer hatta and how we operate this system, amo tong i-load nga data. Now, the software drivers are loaded, wherein the drivers are what enable to use your printer, modem, scanner, and other devices. So, amo gina, it will not function out on its own without a driver. Then the GUI is loaded. When the loading of the GUI or the graphical user interface, the operating system reads the commands for your desktop configuration and programs in the startup folder. Startup folder. If you the time to explore sa aton nga program files, may mo ni sa nga folder na startup. And also sa settings sa masang OS naton. You can also check on the startup settings there to check or uncheck which configuration and programs would you allow to run. For example, to iban nga mga program nga like mga antivirus nyo ga-load up na sa startup, pero once nga man iban nga if you'd allow more may chances nga mahina yung mga startup screen in the startup your computer. So at the same time may problema man na. So you would go to the startup folder, the startup settings, to remove or to uncheck those unneeded programs that you would not want to load on your startup screen. So if everything goes as it should, the GUI appears and the computer is ready to use. Mago ang welcome sign, and mahambal na sa dayon nga welcome mo ng user profile, and then ara man nakita mo dayon yung desktop kung anong last nyo configuration. Ang either tanang icons of your programs and other mga documents ng mga files yung sa desktop mo na yung makita mo. Okay, so sharing on files on different operating systems, pareho man sa atong definition of network, makashare man ta files. It is often necessary to share files across operating system platforms, and the hardware file share solution is an emulation card, a monitor loaded on the motherboard that gives the computer the ability to run programs for another OS. That is another function for a shared type of operating system. Also, the format for this is to save files in the format readable across the system, such as text. So the network operating system, or NOS, resides in a network server and allows a group of computers, which we also called as clients, to be connected and to share these resources. So the one of the main goals of the OS is to make the resources appear as though they are running from the client computer. Amo na yung isa nila ka-advantage if you'd want to have user clients, no, computers nga di mo na sa install nga manually one by one. You can use this kind of network operating system wherein pwede mo na ma-load sa amo ng particular client computer, which is also connected sa imo nga main yung yun nga computer with the operating system. So at any time, pwede mo na siya ma-load sa mo tong client computer, and then it will function as though as it is a fully installed OS na nabutang mo dira, without actually performing the manual installation of this OS. So to summarize, by definition, physical is hardware, and then software is a set of instructions and programs. Can be touched ang hardware, makita mo. Ang software, makita mo man, but these are in the form of a program or instructions. The two basic types of computer hardware are application software. Computer software are application software and system software. Application software, also known as productivity software. Then the system software coordinates and controls the resources and applications of a computer system. There are three major categories of system software: ROS, utilities, and language translators. Operating system provides a interface in the user and the application program, and also on the computer hardware. Whereas utility programs help the user complete a specialized task, file management, maintenance, and fragment checking of your computer. Now, for the language translators, these convert English-like language into machine language, and a programmer uses a programming language to write program statements for the computer system to execute and produce the data. All computers have operating systems, and the user interface is a part of the OS with which we are most familiar. The desktop, or download on the desktop, or the user interface is what we usually do as our front end in how we operate our OS and our system unit. So the most common user interface are command line graphical user interface. Now for Mac OS, Apple's is the munang Mac OS naton. Then icons are symbols that represent documents, softwares, program lists, and so forth. Ang mga makita naton, ang represent sa aton document, those are icons. Then the DOS or DOS was produced in 1981 and is character-based operating system. And MS or Microsoft produced its first version of Windows in 1993 with an operating environment or a desktop. In 1995, and Windows 95 was the MS first true multitasking operating system. And lastly, we have the Windows Embedded CE is a scaled-down computer operating system used for small and handheld computers. And for portable operating systems, we have Unix and Linux are best example of this type of systems. Then we have network operating system allows a group of two or more computers to be connected, and several methods available for sharing files are checked upon different type of operating systems. So that's the last part of our lecture. Any questions on that one? Or any
None, sir.
clarifications nga na example ko?